What's going on, everybody? Tom here with another video. In today's video, I'll be talking about why this chart and this Bollinger Band are some of the most important to be watching right now in the markets. We'll also be talking about our technical analysis for the S&P 500, Nasdaq, Bitcoin, Tesla, GME, and more for the week ahead. So much has been happening in the stock markets this week, but it's been all green, all good. The question is there a bear lurking on the horizon? Stay tuned. Okay guys, I thought in our weekly recap of the markets and look ahead, it might be worthwhile just taking a look at this heat map for the S&P 500 for the last week. And you can easily tell it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know FANG was where it was at last week. Look at all these companies. Apple up 8%, Google up 6.62%, Amazon up 6.68%. Some amazing returns there in the sleeper index. And I think this just really shows time and time again why you've got to be in front of everyone's thought process. We were talking about the FANG 2 weeks ago, and that's not like a miracle. It's just the technicals look good. But the thing is that everyone had forgotten about it. It hadn't been a good performer now since really August, September last year in most of the actual stocks. When we take a look at Friday and we think about the indices, with the FANG moving up so well, of course, that's been pushing the Nasdaq all week. But actually, it was the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 out on the charge, with the Russell coming in late. What is crazy about this? Look at the gains coming into the close. Usually when Wall Street is purchasing, it is near the end of the day. I said, watch the end of the day. And this was very strong purchasing from Wall Street. So they're buying in and they're saying, I don't care about weekend risk, guys. It's all good. We believe in the market right now. The question is, should we be paying attention to that, and can we trust that move? We'll be taking a look at that when we do our S&P 500 analysis, because there's some interesting things coming up on those charts. The other thing I noticed, XLV, the healthcare sector, guys, it finally won a day. And I'm going to give it a clap because this is one of my favorite medium-term plays in terms of XLV. I like the healthcare sector. I'm a big fan of it through bull cycles. I think it beats inflation and all those types of things. So it's nice to see it actually performing a little bit better. And it's been one of kind of the 3 sectors that I like over the next decade. You guys know that I'm a big fan of that, tech, and of course the other one. Now, if we're talking about what was underperforming, it's energy. Energy has been struggling, and that's because oil is stuck in a range. And we'll be covering that more on the channel as it breaks out. And if you're interested, please remember to subscribe and hit that like button. Let's get into the technical analysis straight away. And it's all about put-call ratios as something we want to be watching in the markets. This is the PCC chart of the S&P 500 put-call ratios. And basically, you have 2 levels that you need to watch. You always want to be watching around these low 0.6s, because if it gets down there, what it means is the market is really, really bullish and there's a huge amount of calls. Remember, this is put-call ratio. If there's huge amounts of calls open, usually it'll go down here, and especially if that hits a level of resistance or a trend line or something like that at the same time, it's actually a very good bearish signal. Now, if the puts go crazy and they go above 1, that usually means that the market is hugely bearish, as in everybody is expecting a bear and the market does not go down notoriously during those times. Let's now take a look at the dollar index. What's going on there? 92.18 on the close. Pretty significant bounce off 92. If we think about the daily, it really gave it a shot yesterday and pretty much failed. It failed to hold any bullish sentiment. 92.50 was the resistance break that you were looking for if you're a bull on the dollar index right now. And 92 closure this week underneath will expose some very interesting trades for things like gold, silver, other commodities, and Forex pairs. If the dollar index gets under 92, what does it mean? It means risk on in stock markets. It also means the big move down to 91.50, 91.40 area. And it's going to synergize incredibly well with gold. When we take a look at gold, it is a double bottom pattern, but it hasn't come fully into play. I mean, some people are going to say, Tom, I see it close over here. That means it's actually longing at this point and you should be buying gold. The problem with it is going to be this. The 1760 was previous support, and look where the market stopped. Just before 1760, it hit that 50 exponential blue line on the daily and then came on down. So the problem with gold right now is it's respecting this daily 20. That is amazing. Look at it respect dynamically resistance from the top, dynamic support as it buys through. So this is good news for gold traders, but we need a little bit more, that final catalyst to complete the movement so that we can see the double bottom start to play out and move up to 1840, 1850 zones or areas. Let's move on to Bitcoin. What's going on there? Well, Bitcoin continues to hover around and not do very much. The good thing is you've got some trend lines going on here. Here's a trend line that may be hit over the weekend or next week. But I'm trying to think about it as a coiling pattern where basically it's coiling before 60,000. And we know that 60,000, a close above this is so significant. Do we care about this left-hand side? Not really from a technical standpoint. We're thinking 65 and 70. We're in the moon at that point. We are not in 62,000 territory. And that's because this coiling event that occurs here, as it breaks through, let's say it gets up here and it gets through this zone and it gets through this zone, it's going to move much, much harder. And it's because when you have a series of lower highs coming in and then you're breaking those lower highs just before 60,000, it's already showing you the momentum is strong. So sellers at 60,000 would be brave next time around if it's reached. If the market does continue coming down, trend line to be watched, and this 55, 56,000 area to be watched over the weekend, because of course Bitcoin never sleeps in the markets. Let's now get into our stock market, indices, and stock discussion. We'll start quickly with GME. GME is here. You'll notice straight away it's at 158.32. That is not a good close for it. We've been talking about this one when it closed below 173. I basically said at that point, you're starting to talk about 120 being the next level of support. And then if it got through 120, of course, 87. Good luck to everyone that's playing this one out. Realistically, these lower highs were the tell that this thing was weakening. We've seen this time and time again through many stocks. And this one was showing us before it did happen. Even that Ryan Cohen news and everything else that's going on could not bring it up. I expect if it does move higher, this now to act as some form of resistance as well, with some sellers potentially coming through here. It's a tough one. Good luck, and I wish you all the best next week. Tesla, what's going on here? Bit of a disappointing week for Tesla. Started off so strong. We thought we could get above 700 and really solidify the bull case. We didn't do so. But what we have done is we've begun trapped between two moving averages, the 20 and the 50 exponential moving average. Literally price is in between both of these. So what that's telling me is that if we get a close above or below next week, so as in a close above it or a close below it, it's going to be an explosive move. So continue watching Tesla. 700 plus is going to be the bullish sign. And then you've got your 720 resistance that when that's broken and closed above, I feel more confident about the participation phase back up to the 800 bracket. And that's really where we're long-term looking at this point. But it's just not happening right now. At the moment, it's stuck between two zones and they become the areas that we need to watch throughout the sessions. Let's now move on to the stock market indices. We've got the Russell 2000, the small caps up first. And things were looking pretty good at the beginning. We were doing our live stream. We came in, we saw it, and we thought this was a good looking candle. And it did literally nothing all day. It went up and down very little and barely closed out with a green positive. I'd like to see a little higher next week. So let's say we get a little bit higher up here. That will really show me the momentum is in, and we've already got the good sequence. We've already got the trough, we've already got the peak, we've already got the higher trough and the breakthrough. It's acting technically because it's bounced off this 220 zone, which we knew was going to be a support area. And I'm excited for the Russell, but it needs to start moving. Otherwise, it's going to create a really horrible pattern, and that would be nasty. Imagine if you went up here and then you had this shoulder, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and it came down through there. Oh, that would be bad for Russell players, and that would really show a pretty nasty market correction that was going to occur in this index. At this stage, everything looks fine though. We'll continue to watch it. FANG is amazing. This has been the best area for the market, I think, over the last week and a half. It's just been phenomenal with all those big tech stocks coming back into play. You can see here when you look at the FANG chart, look where it was. So this is back in September last year. It only just reached that this week. So you were looking at September prices on a pandemic or post-pandemic market that saw so many people move online, and people started to wake up on Google. They started to think, wait a second, these guys are increasing ads. YouTube, where you're watching this video right now, is going crazy. I've been watching more YouTube than ever before. It's just going to do well. And that's what people are now finding out in the markets. I think I've got this monthly up just because I wanted to point out these two rejection candles. Now, we're obviously very early into April here, but if we close above these for the month, that's going to be a very bullish longer term signal as well for the markets. Not only have we got through the resistance, but getting through these wicks means all the stops would have been hunted above this as well and exposed throughout the month. So definitely always check that monthly when you can. The weekly 20 remained to be one of the best kind of things. We talked about this last week. It was all green, all good after we closed above the long leg dojis and all these wicks. This was a phenomenal kind of signal. We've seen the strong play, and I think that the FANG can move its way towards 5,000, but any pullback that may occur next week back down to this level should be met with buying pressure. I mean, you look at this zone, this 46.75, body close, which is why I've drawn it here, previous resistance back in August, September, and then just a really nice level that's going to be reached if it does start to sell off. And there could be some good cases why it may have a little pullback. It's been running very, very quickly, very, very fast. Let's take a look at the QQQ. Again, we'll start on the weekly here. 20 exponential moving average remains one of the best ways of picking up this major index. We go down to the daily. We think about our inverse head and shoulders and how is it playing out? Well, we've still got room to go. If we take the full distance, we extrapolate this out on the Nasdaq or the QQQ, 350 is where it goes to, and it's been very bullish into this resistance. So we basically just hit bang straight on the resistance for this, for the Nas. Is it going to sell off here? Any pullbacks? Of course, bigger corrections back down to the 324. You should be met by pretty decent buying pressure. 1, 2, 3. You guys know what I feel about this. If you have a 3-touch resistance that's broken and then tested for the first time, and you've got a moving average 20, it's a pretty good zone to be looking at from a technical perspective. It's a phenomenal kind of area. I mean, what a great chart. This has been very good to us from a technical level, and I think that's really nice to see the market's actually going back to being somewhat normalized from the technical perspective. But here we are, we've left the best to last, and that is the Sp500, the community's trend line. Look at this, we haven't changed it for a very long time. It's been sitting here and it's been very consistent with picking the market peaks. Now, usually when you go into a Friday and you see such bullish momentum coming through, you would think, wow, that's going to be a great kind of point. But there's a few synergies here that I'm going to play out and just talk to you about. Firstly, we are outside of the Bollinger Band on the daily. And I mean, we are outside a few times here. We've been outside, we came back outside, and we haven't had a sell-off. The other thing is we've had some pretty phenomenal bullish days in a row. Now, there are some little red days here. So because there's these little red days, it isn't a full-on sequence of just green, all good. But it's very, very bullish right into the trend line. Will we see selling next week? This is going to be the really tough question to answer because even the weekly, look at this, the weekly is outside of the Bollinger. A fairly rare occurrence to be not met with some selling pressure. Here's a weekly outside, little bit of selling. Here's a weekly, not even outside, some selling. Where else have we got weeklies? Weekly outside, barely, little bit of a sell-off the next week. So it's notoriously a thing where when you start pushing this Bollinger too hard and you're hitting the trend line, that there could be some selling coming through. And I feel like that's why Friday, even though there was huge buying momentum, and I understand, look, I'm very bullish on the market, it's due for a small pullback. If we think about where the market could come back to, usually it's been the 20 throughout this whole run. We've effectively had 20, 20, 20, 20, further correction to the 50, 20, then buying quickly, then further correction to the 50. And now if it comes back, it could go to the 20. But the trend line will be what I'm watching. I'm going to go down to the 2-hour and 4-hour charts, see how this thing interacts with the zone. And you know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for lightning bolts towards the downside to show me that there's a little bit extra correction in here down to the 20 exponential, and then I'll be looking at, of course, purchases. This would potentially also push the Nasdaq or the QQQ back into that support zone. So be careful in the markets this week, guys. We've been very bullish for the last couple of weeks. It's been very, very good. But all of a sudden, we've hit the community trend line, or at least got very close. And it did coast last time a little bit up. So if we start to see coasting, then we're looking really for that lightning bolt down concept. And when that occurs, the 20 seems like it's going to be happening. Is that going to be a massive pullback? No, but it's certainly going to be an interesting one. Let's have a look now at the news for the week ahead. We've got our calendar up. We can see here, this time will be different in my time than yours, but we've got Fed Chair Powell speaking for the US. This is on the Monday session. That's going to be very, very important type of thing to be looking at. Obviously, Powell pushes the markets. And as we scroll through, we've got another Fed Chair Powell speaking on Thursday, April the 15th, my time here in Australia. And you can go to forexfactory.com or marketwatch.com, pick up an economic calendar and make sure you're aware of the time and these events. Look, guys, I hope you have a great weekend. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to smash that like, subscribe if you enjoy it, and we will see you live Monday market open, 1.5 hours before the open starts. Get in the Discord, guys. The community is growing. We are approaching 3,000 members in there between the private and the public rooms, and it's awesome to see you guys sharing. I was scrolling through this morning and there was some good stuff in there, so I'm very, very happy with that. And as I always say, guys, the one thing about the markets is they're never boring.